Hello, YouTube. So I'm going to give you my analysis of the Kursk Bridge explosion and why I think it was actually a failed attack. It should have been much more devastating than it actually was. Much more devastating. It should have destroyed everything. So what you're looking at here, just to orientate ourselves, this is the road bridge and this is the rail bridge off on the side here, right? And we're going to take a look. The Wall Street Journal have done what I think is the best analysis to date, but it still misses really the most obvious of things, which, you don't need to be an expert to understand this one, but we'll come to that shortly. Okay, so let's see what the Wall Street Journal's got for us.
Of a truck.
Incidentally, all the footage here is sort of videos of video screens from security cameras. So it's all fairly low quality stuff, but it shows you everything you need to know.
Of a truck. In the security footage verified by the news agency Storyful, a truck appears to explode close to the epicenter of the blast.
Okay, and so let's do them a favor here and actually go through that frame by frame, seeing as we got this on the video editor, and it does indeed appear that the truck is the center of the blast, which is something we'll come back to later. So yeah, okay. So we'll give them that. That seems to be the center of the blast.
However, engineering and defense experts say that the vehicle is unlikely to have been the primary cause of the incident.
In that case, it'll be a hole in the middle of the bridge and not just this collapse of two spans. They think.
And this is basically right. You big truck bomb on a bridge, you basically expect it just to blow a hole in it. We'll come back to that later.
I think that the explosion most likely came from under the bridge. There are various theories. It could be a manned or unmanned boat, or it could be commander divers placing ship charges on.
Yeah, not so sure about that. Why? Right. So there are various ways you can analyze things. There are simple ways that if someone asks you what sort of plant is this, you can look at it and say, well, there's tomatoes growing on it, therefore it's a tomato plant, which is the sort of analysis that I'm going to be doing here. Or the alternative analysis is you can sort of take genetic samples and go off and do your military grade analysis and come to the conclusion that it's a tomato plant. Anyway, right, so what's the really, really simple stuff that shows that this was probably a failed attack and was going to be much more devastating than it actually was? And we're going to come to, basically how explosives work. So all explosives, you start off with a solid, which you then explode. All the big ones, they're basically barometric devices. So they create, when you detonate them, they create a very high pressure region of gas that just expands outwards. So they're all effectively blast weapons. And, you set this off on a road, or a bridge, you expect it just to blow a hole. This is the expectation. You expect it just to blow a hole in the bottom of the bridge, which, it's possible, that you get your bridge like that, you blow a big hole in it, this bit fails, and the whole thing just falls down. Entirely possible. But, if you take a look at a load of these cruise missile craters, of which there's plenty of, or, just any big bomb crater, they're all, you get your area like that, and there's a crater in the middle. And that's, where the pressure was highest and just blow a hole. But the thing is, where that center is because everything flies outwards from there. And this is where we come back to, I'm managing multiple screens here, just give me a second, there we go. We come back to our explosion, and it's the most obvious thing that just no one seems to have spotted is, where is the center of the explosion? It's nowhere near the bridge. Or at least all of this stuff up here is coming from nowhere near the bridge. The explosion is way off on the right somewhere. Way off on the right. And we know where we are. This is the rail bridge. This is the bit that's going to be collapsed. And it took me quite a while. usually you don't have incendiary stuff in barometric bombs. But this looks very much like burning metal. But after a while, I decided it's probably not burning metal. In the burning metal, when it hits the ground, it sort of sprays around and throws off lots more little bits of burning bits. And when this hits the ground, maybe you do. Maybe it is burning metal. Okay. The other alternative, which it could be an optical effect, that you're getting backlight on a water spray, and that would maybe sort of give a similar effect. But I mean, it was clearly timed to blow up the passing train, and there's a very good reason for that, and that's fuel. When fuel is burning, it releases a pants loads of energy, much more energy than explosives. And so not only is blowing up, it's the classical way to blow up a bridge is basically when there's a train on it, because it does much more damage. A fuel train, a gazillion times more so. Just from the sheer amount of energy in the fuel itself. It's the world's biggest petrol bomb. And, the thermal damage will damage the bridge, damage the tracks, damage everything. And there's no real way to put it out because it's a fire on a bridge. So, but we take a look at this from another angle. And again, they're all from, recorded off monitors and such like. But this one is, we're now under the rail bridge. And this is the bit that's going to be blown it up. And the truck goes by. And even if we go through this frame by frame, we don't get a lot of joy out of this one. Incidentally, right, I'm going to zoom ahead just so we orientate ourselves. This is basically where the explosion happens. This is the part of the bridge that collapses. So, do not put that up there. Right, okay. So, we fast forward ahead, and no. There's the bit of the bridge that's collapsed. Whereas, where was our truck? Our truck was there when the explosion happens. And the Wall Street Journal also points out that something does appear to arrive just here as the explosion's about to go down. So something looks like it's arriving under the bridge. But again, if we take a look at where the epicenter of the explosion is, it's way, way, way off on one side. And I reappraise, I take it back, this is burning metal. Right, so you know it's burning metal because if it hits something, it'll give a spray like this, right? You see this here? And like that, yeah, that's burning metal. Okay, so but the key point is that where does the explosion actually happen? It's a ways off on the right here. So let's actually come back to our drawing and let's get rid of all of this. Oops. And we'll get an estimate of roughly where this is. This isn't going to be the world's most precise analysis, of course. This is the it's a tomato plant because it's growing tomatoes type analysis. But if we take a look at our rail bridge, let's get our rail bridge back. Our rail bridge is these two big columns. The rail bridge was a much more important target because the Russian military basically runs on trains. So blowing up the trains would have. I mean, it's clearly time to blow up the train, which it succeeded at. But so what we got? We got roughly. These are going to be our pillars from our rail bridge, and they're going to go something like that. And let's have another pair up here somewhere. That's our rail bridge, and then our road bridge is much lower down. And I'll put the spans in roughly the same place. Something like that. Now, yeah, my reckoning is the main goal was the rail bridge. So the ideal thing would be you park your explosives under both. The ideal thing isn't to blow up the spans; it's to blow up the pillars. Right? You blow up the pillars, and the repair job becomes an absolute nightmare. You just blow up one of the spans, which is basically what happens. You've just got to basically repair the span, which is a much, much, much quicker job than having to put in place new supports like this. So my reckoning was, or is, that the idea was to get your explosives all the way under the bridge like this, and then blow up everything. In reality, what probably happened, in my reckoning, is that it was more all the way out here, and that's why you see the explosion. Yeah, the center of the explosion looks like it's way over on this side, and the bit where it looks like the truck is at the center, that I still don't have a good explanation for. But the bit that I really wanted to draw attention to here is, I mean, it really is. It's just the most bloody obvious thing ever. The explosion is ways off on the right. Right, it's not a subtle thing, and yeah, like I was saying, the deal with blowing up the train, I can give you that in fairly simple numbers as well. The fuel burning, right? The reason we use gasoline as a fuel is because it's basically king of energy density. Burning gasoline gives you 50 megajoules per kilogram. TNT is about 4 megajoules per kilogram. Now, of course, the TNT, or all explosives are in that sort of region. They might not give you as much energy, but they give you it in a much shorter burst. But the total amount of explosives you'll be looking at here will be several tons. The amount of fuel on the train is going to be several thousand tons, or certainly hundreds of tons. So the energy density of the fuel on the train is 10 to 100 times more than the energy of the explosion, and you basically get all that leaching out onto the rail, and it burns, and it's a complete nightmare. So yeah, the clearly that was one of its main goals, which it hit. My reckoning was the idea was to blow up the pillars on all of these guys, and at that, it probably didn't do so well at. Anyway, so that's my rather my non-military analysis of why I think this explosion didn't really achieve what it was meant to achieve. I mean, it was still a great success, don't get me wrong. And I should stress that this was Putin's bridge. He was the guy who inaugurated it. It cost billions of dollars to build. And yeah, a lot more than that in rubles. And if Russia wasn't going to go nuclear after this, they're not going to go nuclear now. That's my reckoning. And all the cruise missiles that they're blown off, it feels like, the last hurrah to me. That they're basically, of the missiles that they fire off, about half get intercepted. Of the half they get through, half actually hit the correct targets, with the other ones basically just landing in random places like playgrounds and the such like. But when you take a look at it, you're looking at some $1 million cruise missiles to make a crater in a playground. That's not an effective way to wage war. It's also a fairly targeting infrastructure. It's a great way to cripple a country, but it's also a pretty dangerous escalation in that, Russia's energy grid is just as vulnerable as everyone else's. So, I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave that for another video. This was my analysis of why, this was clearly under the bridge or attempted to, and the explosion is way, way, way off on the right here. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, maybe drop a thumbs up on it, and I will see you next time.